Michael Bay is one of Hollywood's most successful and polarizing directors. For over 3 decades, his explosive action, glossy visuals, and relentless pacing have made him a central pop culture fixture.
I told the studio, I said, I'm done doing robots. I'm gonna myself if I should do another robot.
In this video, we're diving into Michael Bay's entire filmography, taking a close look at the budgets, revenues, and behind-the-scenes circumstances of each film to find out whether Michael Bay's signature brand of spectacle-driven action truly translated into lasting box office success. Before becoming Hollywood's explosion guy, Michael Bay made a name for himself directing commercials and music videos. His flashy rapid-cut style caught the attention of producer Jerry Bruckheimer, who was searching for an upcoming filmmaker to direct a buddy cop movie starring 2 big-time TV comedians, Will Smith from The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air and Martin Lawrence from Martin. At the time, neither actor was considered a box office draw, and Columbia Pictures was hesitant about casting 2 black leads in a major action film, worried about international appeal. Michael Bay, however, fought for them, often letting the actors improvise on set, which gave the film its signature comedic chemistry.
They didn't believe in the movie, all right? 2 black guys in the movie, they didn't believe in it because those movies don't work overseas.
When you say they, you mean?
The studio.
The studio.
The film follows 2 mismatched detectives, one cop who always plays everything by the book, and the other, a flashy rule-breaking type of guy, as they tackle a high-stakes criminal case. Despite the $40 million production budget, the film went on to gross over $141 million, an astonishing result relative to the budget. Even after factoring in marketing and distribution costs, the film earned more than 3 times its production budget, making it extremely profitable. This success not only established Michael Bay as a bankable director, but also proved that an action comedy starring 2 black leads could perform strongly in the global market, challenging industry stereotypes and opening doors for similar casting choices in big-budget films. Critically, Bad Boys received a 44% approval score, reflecting a very mixed response among reviewers, with a few praising the natural chemistry and comedic timing between Will Smith and Martin Lawrence, at the same time criticizing the sheer predictability of the script, pointing to the typical buddy cop tropes and over-the-top action sequences. Regardless of these early criticisms, Michael Bay was off to a very good start, and he was about to take things a whole lot further. A rogue group of Marines seize Alcatraz Island and threaten to launch deadly chemical weapons unless their demands are met. To stop them, the FBI recruits Stanley Goodspeed, a brilliant but inexperienced chemist, and pairs him with John Mason, a former spy and the only man to ever escape Alcatraz. Together, they must infiltrate the island, neutralize the threat, and save the city before it's too late. But behind the explosive action was a production just as intense. Coming off the success of Bad Boys, Michael Bay faced the pressure of proving that his first hit wasn't a fluke. With this movie, he had to balance enormous expectations, delivering heart-pounding action sequences, managing a complex cast including Sean Connery and Nicolas Cage, and working within a high-stakes production that involved shooting on the notoriously difficult Alcatraz location. The Rock was made on a production budget of $75 million, a huge leap for Michael Bay at the time, especially for only his second feature film. True to his style, he pushed for massive set pieces, shooting on location in San Francisco and on Alcatraz itself, often clashing with the studio over budget, but using his commercial experience to make every shot count.
I wanted to shoot on Alcatraz. The studio wanted me to shoot some pretty pictures there for 3 days, and I went on a tour and my mouth dropped open, and I said, we gotta shoot half the movie here.
But the gamble paid off spectacularly. When it hit theaters, it earned over $335 million worldwide, more than 4 times its production cost, making it not just a box office hit, but a defining blockbuster of the 90s. The film's financial success proved Michael Bay could handle massive-scale action while delivering a story audiences loved, setting the stage for even bigger projects in the years to come. Armageddon tells the story of how a bunch of massive asteroids swarmed towards Earth, threatening to wipe out humanity unless a daring mission can stop them. NASA recruits Harry Stamper, a veteran oil driller, and his team of roughneck specialists to travel into space, drill into the asteroid, and then detonate a nuclear bomb to save the planet. Along the way, the team faces deadly challenges, tests of courage, and ultimate sacrifices, culminating in a race against time to prevent global destruction. The production of Armageddon was a massive undertaking, even by Michael Bay's standards. Disney gave Michael a staggering $140 million budget, trusting him to deliver a globe-spanning spectacle that combined cutting-edge special effects with a star-studded cast. The space sequences pushed CGI technology to its limits at the time, while the oil drilling and zero-gravity simulations required complex practical effects. Michael's signature style of fast cuts, slow-motion shots, and unnecessary explosions was dialed up to its maximum, creating a film that was as much about visual spectacle as it was about storytelling.
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to make something really epic, and it had a real heartstring to it. Yeah, it's in my gut. That's when I was working on this idea, that's what I felt. I wanted to take people on an epic journey.
Armageddon ended up being a colossal financial success, earning over $553 million worldwide. The film's financial triumph also cemented Bay's reputation as a bankable director who could turn even the most outrageous high-concept ideas into box office gold. However, Armageddon received underwhelming reviews from critics, holding a 43% approval score, with a few critics praising the storyline and the rest heavily criticizing its thin plot and melodrama. Regardless of these criticisms, the audiences didn't care. The film's fast pacing and emotional beats was enough to keep theaters full. For Michael Bay, this was a career-defining moment that solidified him as a director capable of handling the biggest budgets, the most elaborate stunts, and the highest stakes both on-screen and in Hollywood boardrooms. After conquering space, Michael Bay set his sights on history, tackling one of the most dramatic moments in American warfare. Pearl Harbor is a story about two childhood friends, Rafe and Danny, who grow up to become fighter pilots. Their bond is tested by the outbreak of World War II, and also by a love triangle involving a nurse named Evelyn. When Japan launches its devastating attack on Pearl Harbor, their lives and their friendship are forever changed, as they're thrust into war, sacrifice, and loyalty under unimaginable pressure. The movie explores themes of friendship, love, and resilience in the face of tragedy. This was Michael Bay's most ambitious project up to that point. Disney gave him $140 million to recreate one of the most significant events in American history.
So it's a massive undertaking to put something like this together. As you see, there are no ships over on that harbor. I mean, we are on where they run the Pacific Fleet. So we needed to kind of move mountains to make this movie. It's the largest military cooperation they've ever done.
Bay faced the challenge of balancing sprawling aerial combat sequences, detailed period sets, and a large ensemble cast including Ben Affleck and Josh Hartnett. At the box office, Pearl Harbor brought in close to $450 million, with international audiences accounting for over $250 million, significantly outperforming its North American earnings. That global turnout is what pushed the film past the break-even point. On top of that, the movie generated strong profits from DVD sales, television rights, and merchandising, ensuring that Disney walked away with a solid return on their investment. However, the movie faced major criticism from reviewers, holding a 24% critic score. Critics largely hated the film for its melodrama, historical liberties, and over-the-top spectacle, but audiences reacted very differently, giving the film a 66% approval rating. So while many critics focused on the story's flaws and generic tropes, moviegoers were drawn to the aerial battles, the emotional stakes, and romance between these two lovebirds. So despite strong critical disapproval, Pearl Harbor still became a commercial hit, proving that audience appeal can often outweigh critical opinion in determining a blockbuster's success. But after tackling historical spectacle in Pearl Harbor, Bay returned to a more grounded but adrenaline-fueled setting. Bad Boys 2 continues the story of these two handsome blokes as they take on one of the city's most dangerous drug cartels. When a new narcotics threat emerges, the duo dives into high-speed chases, explosive shootouts, and relentless undercover operations, all while trying to balance friendship, loyalty, and the personal stakes that come with their line of work. By the time Bad Boys 2 went into production, both Will Smith and Martin Lawrence had firmly established themselves as major stars. Smith had transitioned from his breakout role in The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air to become a bona fide movie star with hits like Independence Day and Men in Black, while Lawrence was riding high from his successful sitcom and a string of comedy films. By pairing these two talents again, Michael Bay knew he had a magnetic on-screen duo whose chemistry could drive the film, even amid its explosive action sequences. Production was a massive undertaking, with a $130 million budget, which was 6 times the cost of the original. Michael Bay transformed the city into a playground of danger, staging intricate car chases, high-rise shootouts, and nighttime stunts that required weeks of preparation and coordination. At the box office, the movie earned over $273 million worldwide. While that's certainly a strong number, when you factor in production costs and marketing expenses, the profit margin wasn't nearly as strong as the original film. In fact, the first Bad Boys was far more profitable because of its low investment and high return, whereas the sequel, despite being bigger and louder, didn't deliver the same financial bang for its buck. And once again, critics were far from impressed. The movie had a 23% critic score, with many reviews calling it bloated, overlong, and overloaded with action that drowned out any meaningful story. To critics, this was the textbook example of Michael Bay's worst tendencies, explosions and spectacle taking priority over character and plot. But while the critical reception was overwhelmingly negative, audiences saw something different. The film earned a strong 78% audience score, a clear sign that moviegoers enjoyed exactly what critics complained about. This pattern was set in stone. As critics dismissed Michael Bay's films as overblown, audiences continued to embrace the spectacle. But for his next project, Bay decided to step away from sequels and cop dramas to try something different. After the explosive chaos of Bad Boys 2, Michael Bay wanted to try something new. He was looking for a project that could show he wasn't just about car chases and fireballs, but could also handle more ambitious storytelling. That opportunity came with The Island, a sci-fi thriller produced by DreamWorks and Warner Bros. The script had been floating around Hollywood for years, inspired by classic dystopian ideas of cloning, identity, and what it means to be human. For Michael Bay, it was a chance to mix his trademark spectacle with a story that carried deeper philosophical themes. The film starred Ewan McGregor and Scarlett Johansson, both of whom were rising stars at the time. McGregor, fresh off his role as Obi-Wan Kenobi in the Star Wars prequels, brought instant credibility. Johansson was quickly becoming one of Hollywood's most in-demand actresses after her breakout in Lost in Translation. Their pairing gave the film a strong foundation of talent, which Bay hoped would elevate the project beyond a typical summer blockbuster.
I said, Scarlett, I am going to make you a badass, all right? I am going to make the women in that audience applaud for you, all right?
The story centers on a futuristic society where residents live in a highly controlled environment, believing the outside world has been contaminated. They cling to the hope of winning a lottery that will supposedly send them to a paradise known as the Island. The Island had a hefty $126 million budget, but despite performing better overseas than it did domestically, the film only managed to earn around $162 million worldwide. With such a high production cost and an equally expensive marketing campaign, that total fell far short of what was needed to turn a profit. Instead of being another big win for Michael Bay, The Island ended up as one of the rare box office disappointments in his career, struggling to live up to the financial expectations that usually came with his name. The lukewarm response from both critics and viewers contributed to the film's struggle at the box office, marking it as one of the few times Bay's trademark blend of action and style didn't fully resonate. But Michael Bay couldn't stay down for long. Next, he took on a project that would redefine his career. Transformers is a live-action adaptation of the iconic Hasbro toy line and animated series. The idea to turn it into a live-action blockbuster began with Steven Spielberg, who saw potential in bringing Hasbro's toy line to the big screen. Paramount secured the film rights from Hasbro in the early 2000s, hoping to create a major franchise. Initially, Michael Bay wasn't interested at all. He saw the idea as a random toy movie and was worried it would ruin his directing career. But once Spielberg pitched the story to him, Michael saw the emotional hook, and the project quickly gained momentum.
It started with a phone call from Steven Spielberg saying a movie called Transformers, it's about a boy who finds a car that's an alien robot. From there, it starts as a sweet movie, right?
The script was written under a tight deadline, with Roberto Orci and Alex Kurtzman brought in to craft a story that balanced drama and a sense of human emotions with the robots. The movie depicts the battle between two alien robot factions, the noble Autobots, led by Optimus Prime, and the villainous Decepticons, led by Megatron. Their centuries-old war spills onto Earth, where a teenager named Sam finds himself caught in the middle of the battle. The budget for Transformers was a reported $150 million, which was the most money Michael Bay had ever gotten for a movie up to that point. A huge portion of that went into the groundbreaking visual effects, pushing CGI to new heights by creating fully photorealistic robots made up of tens of thousands of moving parts. Plus, when you add in the elaborate action set pieces, location shoots across the United States, and Michael Bay's trademark practical explosions, then it's easy to see where the money went. Transformers went on to earn more than $709 million worldwide, performing especially well in international markets, where the spectacle-driven story translated effortlessly across languages and cultures. That meant the movie earned well over 4 times its budget, making it not just profitable, but a full-blown smash hit. This success transformed Transformers into one of the biggest blockbusters of 2007, proving that Michael Bay's style of large-scale effect-heavy filmmaking was still a dominant force at the box office. critics gave Transformers a 57% approval score, reflecting just how divided the response was. Many praised the groundbreaking CGI and large-scale action, calling it a technical marvel, while others dismissed it for its thin plot, weak dialogue, and forgettable human characters. Regardless of these cynic critics, the profitability of this movie not only launched Transformers into a billion-dollar franchise over the years, but also cemented Michael Bay's reputation as a director whose explosive style could dominate the global market.
You take that personally? Do you take any of the criticisms on board?
No, you can't. You got to do what you do, and listen. I mean, I've done 6 movies or whatever. 7. This is my 7th. I mean, sold $2 billion worth of tickets. I mean, at least someone's going to the movie.
And with that massive success, Paramount immediately pushed for a sequel, one that promised to be even bigger, louder, and even more explosive. After the massive box office success of Transformers, Paramount wasted no time greenlighting a sequel, but the production of Revenge of the Fallen was plagued with challenges from the start. The movie went into development during the Writers Guild of America strike, which meant the script had to be rushed and patched together under tight deadlines. Michael Bay, known for his relentless pace, pushed the movie into production regardless, determined to deliver an even bigger and louder spectacle than the first. The story picks up once again with Sam now in college and trying to move on with a normal life, but when he starts seeing strange Cybertronian symbols, he's pulled right back into the battle between Autobots and Decepticons. So once again, Sam and Optimus Prime have to fight to save humanity from total annihilation. Like the first movie, the focus is still on massive spectacle and non-stop action, but this time the themes lean heavier into sacrifice and the idea that some battles are impossible to run away from. With the first movie being such a massive financial success, Paramount and Michael Bay went even bigger for the sequel. Revenge of the Fallen came with a staggering budget of about $200 million, making it one of the most expensive films ever produced at the time. That gamble, however, paid off at the box office. The film earned over $836 million worldwide, bringing in more than $100 million more than the first movie. It was especially strong overseas, where international audiences turned out in huge numbers for the spectacle. It cemented Transformers as one of the biggest franchises in the world, proving that Michael Bay's explosive style still translated into massive box office gold.
And what's different about this movie than the last movie is it was like taking place in 10 square miles, around LA, suburbia. Now we go to 5 different countries. We go halfway around the world.
However, despite all of this success, critics still found a way to tear the movie apart. It scored a 19% approval score, with critics calling it bloated, messy, and exhausting. But the success of this movie showed just how bulletproof Michael Bay's formula was, and that success only fueled Paramount to push the series even further. The third installment of Transformers kicks off as the Decepticons bring their war straight into the heart of Chicago, reducing the city to rubble in one of Bay's most massive and destructive third acts ever. The movie takes on a darker tone than the first two, showing the cost of war on a global scale while still packing in the massive set pieces and relentless energy that had come to define the franchise. To match its massive scale, Dark of the Moon carried an enormous $195 million production budget, making it one of the most expensive films ever made at the time. The cost came from its intricate visual effects, large-scale set destruction, and extensive location shoots, including weeks of filming in downtown Chicago, where real buildings were rigged with explosives and hundreds of stunt performers coordinated some of the franchise's biggest action sequences. That investment paid off in a major way. The film exploded at the box office, earning over $1 billion worldwide, becoming not just the highest-grossing Transformers film, but one of the top-grossing movies of all time. It was especially dominant overseas, where international audiences contributed the majority of its earnings. For Paramount and Hasbro, this was way more than just a box office win. It was a complete transformation of their business strategy. The success of Transformers turned the Hasbro's toy brand into a global cinematic powerhouse, generating billions in merchandise, licensing deals, and spin-off opportunities, while giving Paramount a reliable summer tentpole they could build entire release calendars around. For Michael Bay, this was another major power shift. After delivering 3 consecutive financial juggernauts, he had proven that he could consistently turn massive budgets into even bigger profits, and that kind of track record gave him extraordinary leverage. But rather than jumping straight into another massive spectacle, he surprised everyone by going in an extremely different direction. Pain and Gain tells the true story of 3 Miami bodybuilders who got caught up in a ridiculous kidnapping and extortion scheme, thinking they could muscle their way into wealth and power. The film follows Mark Wahlberg, Dwayne Johnson, and Anthony Mackie as the clueless criminals, blending Michael Bay's flamboyant style with a darker and much more absurd tone. Unlike his usual 9-figure budgets, Pain and Gain was made for just $26 million, the smallest film budget of Michael's career. After the colossal scale of 3 straight Transformers films, Michael Bay wanted a reset. He'd actually had Pain and Gain on his desk for years, fascinated by the wild true story of these crazy Miami bodybuilders.
It was a story that I found 10 years ago. It had a great voice to it, great character film. I like the moral dilemma of this thing because it's from the criminal's perspective.
But Paramount kept steering him toward their typical CGI blockbuster shenanigans. However, once Dark of the Moon wrapped, Michael Bay finally pushed this project through. He took a huge pay cut to get it made, shot it like an indie film on real Miami locations, and used handheld cameras and quick stylized editing to give it a raw, chaotic energy. Pain and Gain went on to gross over $87 million worldwide, making it a commendable financial success. And while that number may seem small compared to his blockbusters, it more than tripled its budget, and because marketing costs were modest, the film ended up turning a solid profit for Paramount. In terms of return on investment, it was one of Bay's most efficient projects, a sharp reminder that he could still deliver box office success without relying on spectacle. Even though the movie held a mixed critic rating of 49%, Pain and Gain was still a clear financial win. A low-budget gamble that tripled its cost and proved that Michael Bay could deliver without blockbuster spectacle. But that small-scale detour wouldn't last. After catching his breath with a grounded crime story, Michael dove straight back into the world that had made him a powerhouse. After Dark of the Moon became a billion-dollar hit, Paramount was determined to keep the Transformers franchise alive, but Michael Bay wanted to shake things up. He decided not to bring back Shia LaBeouf or the original cast, instead rebooting the human side of the story with Mark Wahlberg as the new lead. The idea was to keep the franchise fresh, while still carrying forward the Autobots audiences loved. Age of Extinction follows a struggling inventor named Cade, who stumbles on a damaged Optimus Prime. With the Autobots now hunted by the government and a ruthless bounty hunter named Lockdown, Cade and his daughter are dragged into a war that threatens the entire planet. The locations for this movie was massive in scope, spanning across the United States and even China. In fact, the production partnered directly with Chinese studios and brands, which not only influenced parts of the story, but also helped guarantee the movie would dominate in the Chinese market. Age of Extinction was one of the most expensive films ever made at the time, carrying an estimated production budget of around $210 million. The costs came from its massive visual effects workload, especially the creation of the Dinobots, globe-spanning shoots in both the US and China, and Michael Bay's trademark large-scale practical destruction. The film also had one of Paramount's biggest marketing campaigns, with heavy product placement and brand tie-ins, especially in China, which covered a significant portion of the costs. At the global box office, Age of Extinction was nothing short of a juggernaut. The film earned over $1.1 billion worldwide, making it the highest-grossing movie of 2014. While it performed strongly in the US, the real story was overseas, particularly in China, where it became the first film ever to cross $300 million in that market alone. The strategic partnership with Chinese brands and studios paid off massively, turning the film into a cultural event overseas. By delivering another billion-dollar hit, it cemented Michael Bay's reputation as one of the most bankable directors in the world. Unfortunately, you already know that majority of critics and reviewers hated this movie. But no matter how harsh the reviews were, Michael Bay's movies still drew massive crowds to the theaters and continued to deliver staggering profits. However, his next movie wouldn't carry that same weight at the box office. "13 Hours" tells the true story of the 2012 terrorist attacks on the American diplomatic compound in Benghazi, Libya. The film follows a team of 6 CIA security contractors who find themselves under siege when militants storm the compound. Unlike Bay's usual larger-than-life blockbusters, 13 Hours is stripped down and relentless, focusing almost entirely on the grit, chaos, and desperation of combat. It's a war story that highlights brotherhood, sacrifice, and survival in the face of impossible circumstances. After years of massive blockbusters, Michael Bay deliberately scaled things down with 13 Hours. He was drawn to Mitchell Zuckoff's non-fiction book about the Benghazi attacks, seeing it as an opportunity to tell a raw, grounded story of courage and survival.
You know, we've heard Benghazi, but I read this book, 13 Hours, and there was a great human tale, great heroic story that I never heard. I watched all the news shows like everybody else. I never heard this amazing story.
Michael Bay insisted on authenticity, real weapons, military advisors, and practical effects wherever possible. The actors, including John Krasinski, underwent military-style training to convincingly portray CIA contractors under fire. The movie was made on a budget of $50 million, which by Michael Bay standards was practically an indie film, with smaller sets, fewer visual effects, and a heavy focus on practical filmmaking. The tighter budget also reflected its more serious subject matter, with Paramount not expecting Transformers-sized numbers, but instead aiming for a grounded war drama with awards potential. At the global box office, 13 Hours earned about $69 million. While that might sound respectable, the numbers told a different story. After theaters took their share and Paramount factored in the costs of marketing and distribution, the film failed to break even. In Hollywood terms, it was considered a flop, a rare miss for Michael Bay, whose name was usually tied to billion-dollar spectacles. The film tackled a politically charged event while leaning hard into non-stop combat, which left little room for the context or nuance many viewers expected. The result felt uneven and narrowed its audience, and early reactions produced only modest word of mouth. Critics gave 13 Hours a 51% score, praising Michael Bay's gritty battle sequences and restrained direction compared to his blockbusters, but faulting it for its length, uneven pacing, and the way it handled such a politically charged story. Financially and critically, the film underperformed expectations, but after this detour into real-world drama, Michael went straight back for the final time into the world that had made him untouchable in Hollywood. After the lukewarm reception of 13 Hours, Michael Bay wasn't so eager to jump back into the world of CGI robots and unnecessary explosions. But Paramount had other plans. The Transformers franchise had already earned billions, and the studio wasn't ready to let its most explosive director walk away just yet. They pitched Michael Bay an even bigger vision, a film that would expand the mythology, connecting the Transformers to human history, from medieval knights to World War II. Michael was hesitant, claiming he'd said goodbye to the series more than once. But the promise of new IMAX 3D camera technology, massive global locations, and total creative control pulled him back in. The production became one of his most ambitious undertakings, filming across England, Scotland, and Cuba, with a staggering $217 million budget. The story picks up with the world turning against the Transformers. Optimus Prime is lost in space, while Mark Wahlberg hides the remaining Autobots on Earth. When an ancient artifact tied to King Arthur's legendary surfaces, it reveals that Transformers have influenced human history for centuries, and as Cybertron nears Earth, Cade and Bumblebee must join forces to stop its destruction. Despite its enormous scale and worldwide marketing push, The Last Knight managed to earn over $605 million globally, which was less than half of what Age of Extinction made. For a movie that cost over $217 million to produce, and likely another $100 million or more to market, the returns fell far short of expectations. While it technically made money through global distribution deals, toy sales, and streaming rights, it was still the least profitable film in the entire franchise. For Paramount, it was a clear signal that audiences were beginning to get tired of the formula. The explosions, the chaotic action, and the paper-thin storylines that once defined summer blockbusters. As usual, critics hated the film, giving it an abysmal 16% approval rating, calling it bloated, incoherent, and exhausting, though many admitted its visual spectacle was unmatched on a technical level. After 5 Transformers movies and billions in box office revenue, Bay's run with the franchise had reached burnout. He'd proven he could command spectacle like no one else, but critics wondered whether he'd ever downshift into something more personal again. His next move would be a return to familiar territory. 6 Underground follows a team of elite operatives led by a mysterious billionaire, played by Ryan Reynolds, who fakes his own death to live off the grid. Together, they form a covert unit that hunts down dangerous criminals and corrupt leaders the world has ignored. After wrapping up the Transformers series, Michael Bay was ready for something different, something with fewer studio restrictions and more creative freedom. That opportunity came through Netflix, which offered him a budget of $150 million. It marked Bay's first film outside the traditional Hollywood system in over a decade. Free from the usual studio oversight, he leaned fully into his signature chaos. Fast cars, sun-drenched explosions, and non-stop action stitched together by a barely restrained camera. He pushed his crew to extreme lengths to achieve realism, crashing real cars through city squares, using military-grade camera rigs, and shooting high-speed chases through the narrow streets of Florence. Netflix promoted 6 Underground as its next major blockbuster, the kind of movie designed to prove that streaming could deliver theater-sized spectacle at home. Since Netflix doesn't release official box office data, profitability was measured differently. The film reportedly attracted over 80 million household views within its first month, making it one of the platform's most watched original films of 2019. While the lack of a theatrical run meant there was no direct box office return, Six Underground served its purpose. It boosted Netflix's global subscriber engagement and brand image, delivering the kind of high-octane entertainment previously reserved for summer theaters. However, when it came to overall return on investment, the film's massive budget meant it wasn't considered a major financial success internally. Reports later revealed Netflix opted not to pursue a sequel, citing that the revenue didn't justify the cost. Critically, Six Underground received a 36% score from critics, calling it visually stunning but narratively hollow, the kind of film that delivers spectacle without emotional depth. For Michael Bay, Six Underground was both a triumph and a lesson, proof that he could dominate streaming the same way he did the box office, but also a reminder that spectacle alone can't sustain a story. Still, it showed that Michael Bay was far from slowing down. However, his next and most recent project would take him back to the big screen. Ambulance tells the story of two adoptive brothers, Danny and Will Sharp, who find themselves trapped in a desperate situation. When Will's wife needs an expensive surgery, he turns to Danny for help, only to be pulled into a risky bank heist. The plan goes wrong fast, and the brothers hijack an ambulance to escape, only to discover there's a wounded cop and an EMT still inside. What follows is a relentless high-speed chase through Los Angeles, as the two brothers try to outrun the entire police department while holding on to what little humanity they have left. After the massive scale and mixed reception of Six Underground, Michael Bay decided to strip things down a bit. This was his return to smaller, more focused storytelling, at least by his standards. The film was shot during the height of the pandemic, when most of Hollywood was on pause, yet Bay managed to create one of his most intense and technically ambitious projects. Working with a modest $40 million budget, Ambulance relied far less on CGI and more on practical effects, stunts, and real locations across Los Angeles. Shooting was completed in just 38 days, an incredibly short schedule for a film packed with real explosions, live vehicle crashes, and handheld camera work.
And I'm used to shooting fast, but this was hard. I mean, I'm there with a camera. I don't have a trailer. I don't have a director's chair. You're shooting really fast, but it looks really good for the speed, and the speed helps the energy for the actors.
Despite its intense pace and strong performances, Ambulance struggled to find its audience. The movie's theatrical run was short-lived, and it ultimately failed to turn a profit, grossing a little over $52 million. Because Ambulance was released during the post-pandemic recovery period, it faced tough competition and limited marketing, which made it easy to overlook in a crowded release calendar. However, once the movie hit streaming, it gained a new wave of appreciation. Many viewers praised it as one of Michael's most grounded and emotionally resonant works, proof that even when stripped of giant robots and billion-dollar budgets, he could still deliver breathtaking action with raw energy. Critics gave it around a 68% approval score, calling it surprisingly focused for a Michael Bay film, while audiences responded positively to its mix of tension, heart, and relentless momentum. Across his entire career, Michael Bay has been many things: a master of spectacle, a lightning rod for criticism, and one of Hollywood's most commercially successful directors. His movies have earned over $6 billion worldwide, redefining what a blockbuster could look and sound like. Love him or hate him, Bay has never compromised his style. His films are loud, unapologetic, and distinctly his own, a mix of chaos and precision that few directors can replicate. Even his misfires command attention, and that's the mark of a filmmaker who knows how to leave an impression.
I'm here to keep 3D alive, and the only way to make it the best experience for you is to shoot it natively. That means 2 cameras, 2 eyes that see exactly what you're seeing.
Alright blokes, that's all for today. If you enjoyed this breakdown, please consider hitting that like button and subscribing to the channel so you don't miss our next one. Thank you so much for watching.